Hey, everybody, welcome to the Age of Reason podcast. This is episode 71 with Mike, Nick, and Alex, where we are not for the faint of thought. So we had some complications last week, huh? Just a little.
Fuck yeah.
Let me apologize to everybody on behalf of all of us here. So here's what happened. We tried to record last week on Net Neutrality Day. And for good reason, nothing was working, so we had to re-record because our internet connection was so slow, there was just nothing we could do about it. And they were recorded the following night, and we had some other audio issues where one of us didn't really have anything actually record. So
it was me. It was Alex. I'm not gonna leave it anonymous here.
All right, so Alex basically sent me a blank file, and there was absolutely nothing I could do with it. So that explains why we were off last week. We did a whole episode. We smashed on a bunch of Catholics, and all of it went to waste. But we're back, and we're going to do it twice as hard this week.
You two made liars out of me. I put on Twitter that we were dropping an episode.
I actually went and deleted that post. Because I felt so bad.
Oh. Well, I guess thank you. I was wondering how the public would ever trust me again.
I don't know. But yeah, I went ahead and deleted it. So we will make it happen. It will go, this episode will go up tonight, which is what is today? Tuesday the 18th, 19th, something like that. Anyway, let's just get into it. We got a lot of stuff to discuss. So Alex, I'm throwing to you.
All right, starting off, we got my favorite. We got a block of drug news here. I'll start off with the good news. That's Colorado continues to get lots of money from marijuana. Last year, they made $70 million in tax revenue, and they continue to do good things with it. Actually, so I read an article. It was highlighting Aurora, Colorado, which is over there, and they just spent $3.5 million on a homeless resource center, basically, and it's they can get meals and get haircuts and job training and things like that. So I mean, great things keep coming out of legal marijuana. So hopefully more states do it and do it right.
Well, in the
Unless
state
they
of
run
Colorado, I was just in Aurora for 2 days in a row last week, doing a certain type of training, and I actually saw that same homeless shelter that you're talking about. That's crazy.
Did you smoke the weed, Michael, when you were in Aurora, Colorado? Did you? Did you partake?
I have not. It needs to become a federal law. I gotta wait for the next administration so I can have.
That's your excuse?
You think the Pence administration is going to legalize weed federally?
I said I have to. That's why I just said
Roger Stone has his way.
I had to wait. I have to wait until the next administration.
So, speaking of having to wait, if you're in California, you might have heard a knock recently, and that's actually Nevada knocking on the door saying, instead of if they can borrow a cup of sugar, can we borrow an ounce of marijuana? They've declared a state of emergency in Nevada for running out of weed. It became legal July 1st. There's 35 dispensaries in Nevada. 25 of them are in Las Vegas because that's pretty much all there is to Nevada, Vegas, and Reno. But they're basically running out of weed, and that's because they didn't get through properly and issue the right distribution and growing licenses, enough of them running out. They just had an emergency meeting and changed the laws and allow more people to distribute. So hopefully by the time I go next month, they'll be all caught up. But
yeah, that was a weird thing. I heard that I guess they were being lazy about it. They were like, who should distribute the weed? And they're like, well, the beer trucks already do it. So like, what is that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Colorado did a great job. Oregon and Washington did a pretty good job. And it was basically just turn their medical marijuana places into recreational. And that's kind of what they're trying to do now to make up for it. But yeah, they're I guess some of the shops were losing money obviously, if you don't have any weed, you don't have anything to sell.
Right.
So, but now we're gonna move on to the serious drug epidemic here. The Coco Loco here.
The what?
It's Coco Loco. It's hardcore street name. The Black Rabbit.
Black Rabbit.
The Black Rabbit.
So
I heard of that.
so it's been popular in
Some Colombian Black Rabbit.
puro.
How do you say rabbit in Spanish, Alex?
It's conejo.
Would you call me?
What?
Would you call me puto?
So
What the fuck are you talking about?
basically what it is you have it's been popular in Europe for a couple years now. It's a snortable chocolate, and the one that's in the United States, Coco Loco. It's mixed with caffeine and other ingredients that are in energy drinks. So it's like a stimulant. It's supposed to, make you dance all night. And Chuck Schumer calls it cocaine on training wheels.
No. It's meaner than cocaine.
Guys, I'm gonna tell you. I spent 5 years working on an ambulance, and I'll tell you right now, if a human being can figure out how to stick it in its nose or up its ass, it's gonna do it. I mean, you wouldn't believe the stuff that's been up there. This is shocking and not shocking at the same time.
Apparently, it's the thing to do. I'm not gonna run out and try some, but
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, it's one of those things like, you're making mole. You don't melt a Hershey bar on top of your enchiladas, And this is the same thing. You want some stimulation? Get some cocaine. Don't shove a chocolate bar up your nose.
Get some cocaine like any normal human being.
Yeah, damn it.
And my number is... No, I'm
Black
just kidding.
Rabbit. That's a great name.
Send cocaine here. P.O. Box.
Okay, so my last article here is an article from the end of last month, but obviously the wall between the United States and Mexico is not getting built, and the wall between church and state continues to erode. The House GOP it made it past committee a bill that will allow churches to endorse candidates, and still the biggest part is and still enjoy their tax-free lifestyle, I guess. This argument against it. I don't have a problem if churches want to endorse candidates or endorse certain things, but then you need to pay your taxes, basically. And I forgot how many. I think it's $700 million a year or something that churches don't pay in taxes. So if you guys want to start paying some of that back and then telling people who to vote for, that's fine by me.
That
Otherwise,
seems 700 million. That seems
But
low.
I think that's just for California.
Maybe.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a number that I read a while back.
Yeah, the thing about this is, I guess if you got a small congregation and you're just, telling them that one candidate's a really great guy and he loves Jesus, but I mean, whatever. But you think about some of these mega churches, and then if the Catholic Church decides, oh well, yeah, we want John Huntsman to be the next president, there's a good chance that it can happen.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Actually, he just got named ambassador to Russia, by the way. Yeah, I see that killed the conversation.
Yeah, let's get back. Let's get back to the topic. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you restrict. To me, it'd be a freedom of speech issue if we try to tell churches that they can't tell their people who they should vote for. It's up to their people to listen or not. However, I think to publicly endorse or donate, I don't agree with that. I mean, even if they are paying taxes.
I think what you just said, though, I think is currently against the law.
Right.
they can't.
Well, that's
But we're
the
talking about that
Johnson
going.
Amendment.
If they
No,
do
we're
that?
talking about that going away if they start paying taxes. I think the wall is
Oh,
more
okay,
important.
okay.
Oh,
I still think they need to pay fucking taxes. I mean, put a cap on it. If you're Joel Osteen, if you're any guy that is basically trying to preach the socialist word of Jesus and raking in over $1 million a year, you should be paying fucking taxes.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. The thing about this amendment, the Johnson Amendment, though, that keeps churches from endorsing candidates, I think the only portion of that is of any concern, at least for me, is that now the churches can take donations from the people that come and then turn around and put an ad on television endorsing a candidate.
Yep.
That's what this will allow, and that should not be happening.
Agreed. I'm just saying, I think honestly, if their church pulls in over $1 million a year in donations, they should be paying taxes, and that's not giving them any more rights than they already have when it comes to endorsing or donations to candidates.
Well, there's been a lot of studies done about how much money we would receive in tax revenue if the churches just paid property taxes, not income tax, none of that, just property taxes.
Yeah, that would bankrupt Phoenix, Arizona. There's a church on every fucking corner over there.
So I guess should I throw this in there to kind of tie it in with the elections? The GOP is closing the Federal Election Agency, our only protection from the federal government that ensures that we have secure elections.
On top of Trump's joint venture with Putin to ensure we're going to have secure elections, this is the follow-up idea.
No, that's not happening anymore. Apparently,
No, but I mean, still,
this
is their bright fucking ideas.
No, the head of cybersecurity resigned, so now whoever Trump puts in there is obviously going to be a Trump friend.
And somebody totally unqualified. He
No, it's probably
he
gonna
ran
be
the
like
best
the
fucking
CEO
sporting
of
goods store,
AOL
and
or
that's going to
something.
justify him to be cybersecurity. It's going to be something like that.
Absolutely. AOL. Now, when you go in to vote, you're going to hear dong, dong, dong.
Net Zero or any of those other outdated internet
said she's too
providers.
ugly to-
Yeah, who knows? Maybe it'd be Carly Fiorina.
You know, I guess the only way to ensure that our votes are fair anymore is screw going into the booth. Just punch your ballot right in front of everyone and go, I voted for so and so. And that's the only way that we're going to get it fair.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the fuck are you gonna do? I mean, these are the great ideas that are coming from our president. I mean, I know it's squashed now, but it went from joint venture with Putin, and now we're here.
Well, and now secret meeting
Yeah,
with
I
Putin. Did you
was
see he
reading
had
about
a
that.
secret meeting
Oh, gee.
after the initial meeting with just him and a
Putin is
translator
known for being shirtless.
and a bottle of oil?
That sounds sexy.
I guess just real
Okay,
quick.
not the
before we
bottle
get to
of
the next
oil,
one,
but-
I'll add in one more
Yeah.
of Trump's brilliant ideas that came up last week. The wall that's going to be solar powered and 30 feet tall or 60 feet tall now has to be transparent so you don't get hit by a bag of drugs. That's what
I'll
I'm
tell you
waking
what,
up.
if a bag
grabbing
of
that
drugs
shit
hits you in
and
the
going
head,
home happy.
you just better be happy you got hit with a bag of drugs. Yeah, I mean, even if you're not going to use it,
No, we don't
God,
want-
the money.
we don't want-
I mean, come on. Because they're talking a 60-pound bag of drugs. You know how much weed 60 pounds is?
We don't want
Like,
60
that's
pounds
not
of
chucking
Mexican
a
weed.
basketball over. That's chucking like a bale of hay over the wall.
This reminds me of every time.
Yeah, it's true.
Every time I've read this story, I've read like 2 different articles on it. I always think of that part in Waterboy where Henry Winkler goes, "I cried and cried like a 10-year-old girl," and he throws
Yeah,
that thing out
you're
the
just
window and it hits Colonel Sanders. And,
Going for a stroll with your family, and all of a sudden a bag of cocaine hits you in the head.
And that's another thing too. How often
middle
are
of
we
the
like,
desert.
honey, why don't you grab the kids and like go for a stroll along the
Well, now it's
border
gonna-
wall? Like, who the fuck does that?
And it's going to be transparent, so now you can
That's
see them,
funny.
right?
I
And
want
wave
to.
to
I
'em.
want to be able to feel the hostile Mexicans on the other side.
It's like a people zoo they got going on over here now.
That's right. You're like, hi,
Christ.
hey, that's Felipe. I talked to him the other day.
Oh my God.
He
So-
threw me a bag of drugs.
So staying with religion, so this this angers me again, because Nick, you and I had that that episode that we did about my wife and the birth control and the Catholic Church, and the reason why they're able to do that is because of Hobby Lobby taking advantage of Mike Pence's RFRA. What is that? The Religious Freedom Restoration Act. That's what it was. Yeah. So Hobby Lobby is in the news again. They have agreed to forfeit thousands of ancient artifacts that were obtained illegally from Iraq and pay $3 million. So Hobby Lobby was caught back in 2011 by U.S. Customs when they seized one of their incoming ships and found illegally purchased items in crates labeled handmade clay tiles. So this was bound for Oklahoma City, which is where their headquarters are. And the Hobby Lobby president came out. His name is Steve Green, and he initially told the courts that these illegalities are mainly due to an oversight in filing the correct paperwork, and that they will have better oversight over their paperwork portion in the future. The problem with that is a law expert that consulted Hobby Lobby, Patty Gerstenblythe, stated that she advised Hobby Lobby of their illegal activities way in advance before U.S. Customs seized these crates and found these issues. So, I mean, is this a Christian thing to do, I guess? Taking advantage of a place that's been torn apart by war for who the fuck knows how long, especially in the last 15 years, and these guys are basically capitalizing on it.
And using ISIS as a business partner is never a good publicity either.
Yeah, they're also. I was unable to find any confirmed reports. I'll be honest about that. But there is major suspicion, I guess would be the right word. Like basically, it's a fact that they at least are indirectly funding ISIS. What we cannot find is if there is a straight up direct, like if they were purchasing this from ISIS.
I mean, they don't know the
groups.
They don't know the broker, right? But I mean, if you look at what's going on over there, they're basically, taking over museums, ruining whatever. I mean,
right.
So it's, it's pretty.
And there's been plenty of stories out about how ISIS has been, raiding museums and raiding all these different places and selling a bunch of shit online in order to fund, what they're doing. So, I mean, that's been going on for years. To think that Hobby Lobby didn't at some point give $1 to ISIS, at the very least, is kind of insane. So, fuck Hobby Lobby? Yeah, fuck them.
Oh, absolutely. They're opening one in my local town, and I almost want to go down there holding a sign that says Wahhabi Lobby. And
I like that.
But all the people that go in there will just look at you like you're crazy and you have nothing better to do. Why don't you go get a job?
yeah, that's fine. But bottom line is that ISIS has stolen artifacts in the Middle East to secure income to further their caliphate, and Hobby Lobby sent millions of dollars to somebody over there to get these religious items for their own private Bible museum, apparently.
They're going along with Ken Ham.
Yeah, this is the second time they've done this, by the way. This is the second time they've been caught. So how many times have they not been caught? How much of that money has escaped?
If I remember correctly, when this first happened, that was one of their first statements, was that they're basically sorry they got caught. And
Yeah.
It's such a Christian thing to do.
Well, speaking of the Catholic Church and religion, and this is a religious heavy episode today.
Sweet.
So Cardinal George Pell, the third in line to the Pope, he's considered one of the Pope's top advisors, had to return to Australia. This was last week to face charges of pedophilia. This is big deal. Normally, when they're up that high, I guess they get to the children quietly in the dark, and people don't notice. But for some reason, he's there. Um, as if that weren't enough, last week the Vatican police, the police from the Vatican, and I really hope it was the guys wearing the funny outfits
yes,
with the
the
multicolors,
stripes and
with
shit.
the pikes, they busted into a cardinal's apartment where there was a drug-fueled gay sex orgy happening.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, now of course,
Yes.
there's nothing wrong with that. We are all open-minded and accepting people
No,
here. There's nothing wrong with the gay orgy.
It's only, in my opinion, it's always fun to make fun of anything, but it's really okay to make fun of gay people when they're hypocrite gay people, and on top of that, part of the Catholic Church. Then I think it's really fair game.
Yeah, it's a bit funny that this is happening in a apartment that's paid for by the Vatican for one of their cardinals.
Yet they tell their supporters they can't use condoms.
Yeah, well, as we talked about in an episode a couple episodes ago, you can't spill seed on the ground, right? I mean,
no, or you will be killed with death.
wait, but can you spill it in another man? Does it say that anywhere?
No, it just says man
As long
cannot
as it doesn't
lay
hit the
with
ground.
another man.
Well, what if you're not laying? What if you're standing behind him?
It didn't say a word about doggy style, including
there you go.
stand-up doggy style.
There you go, people. We have solved the problem for everyone on the planet.
Well, I mean,
We've-
clearly these guys know they're not going to hell, so they've
That's
they've
right.
got it figured out.
They figured it out. Yeah. So okay.
I mean, I do.
Okay,
oh,
go ahead. I got one more, but go ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
I did want to say just for Pell, I not give him credit, right? Because there's no way you could do it. But so typically, I think what people that high have done in the past is take refuge at the Vatican and stay there and just live their life, never leave the Vatican, where they're protected, basically by the Vatican. So not. He's doing the right thing, at least, by going back to Australia to face those charges, because there have been plenty of senior Catholic officials who have avoided charges by taking up position at the Vatican.
Well, I'm not going to give him credit though, because he's too high profile to ignore this. If he were anybody lower, he would be sent to Arizona to their camp down there where they tell us shrink that, I touched a young child, and they go, oh, well, that's your burden to bear. And then they send them to a different church.
It's the child's fault. The 8-year-old
Right.
little Billy was asking for it.
He shouldn't have been so seductive in his underoos. So speaking of the children, there's a case right now in the courts, in the Vatican courts. 2 civilians are on trial for embezzling money from a children's hospital to pay for renovations to one of their cardinals' apartments.
Why?
So
okay, is this even on? Is any of the stuff we're talking about really on the news anymore? Because I saw the Catholic deal that we talked about that lasted a night. This I have not heard of. This I didn't hear anywhere else.
This was on the NBC Nightly News tonight. They were talking about this, and the overall point to all of this is we got a cardinal and another cardinal here, and you look at these old men who are sitting there in their finery, and they're not necessarily making money. I'm sure some of them have secret bank accounts somewhere, but they're living in palaces. These are people that are supposedly spreading the word of Christ, a poor carpenter who lived with the dirty, scummy people of the earth and roamed and spoke of love and tolerance and understanding. And these people sit in a cathedral, in a palace, surrounded by gold, and they're raping children. They're embezzling money.
This sounds like Donald Trump
They're
and
laundering
his
money
family.
for the mafia.
This sounds like the Trump family. Wait, who are we talking about? You got me confused there for a minute. So, real quick.
Whoa, wait a minute. Has there been a kid diddling situation with the Trumps? I'm not aware of this.
No, but when you started going off about their
aside
gold
from-
shit, and
Okay.
I cannot.
Well,
Whoa, let's sexual assault. I don't know about kids. Whoa, wait,
Trump was
no.
talking about his daughter since she was
Trump,
a teenager.
That's true,
That too,
that's
but
true.
Trump also walking into pageant, even teen pageants, and just walking into dressing
that's
rooms
true,
and shit. So
that's true.
it's not as bad as far as the child molestation and all that shit that we're talking about. But when you started talking about gold shit and embezzling money, so now
Right.
I want to make not really a prediction, but put a thought out there. So human trafficking, the sex slave trade, is just unprecedented at this point, and it really doesn't get enough news coverage. I've been to a few conferences on it, and we've talked about it on here before. Every major city across the world basically has a sex trade, and and human trafficking issues, and the United States is no different. Do either of you think that one day, with all of this shit exploding about Catholics and all of the previous explosions about Catholic child molestation and all that shit that's gone on throughout history, do you think we'll find out that one of these high-ranking people had some part to play in this global epidemic that we're witnessing right now? Is that possible? Do we think they're that dirty?
Only if somebody out there is not afraid of them. I think that there's too many people that are afraid to really dig into this kind of stuff. You get very few people that dig into big money and really go after the powerful, and they're scared, understandably so. I wouldn't put it past Trump to have someone rubbed out. Why not? I mean, what does he care? He's clearly shown that he doesn't care about people.
Well, and as that new report that just came out that we were reading today, I mean, he's been just tied up with the Russian mob since the 1980s.
Yeah, I think that we should probably talk about that on the next episode.
Yeah,
because
we need to
that's
digest
huge.
and put that together. Yeah,
there's so much
stay
there.
tuned on that one. But
so finally tonight, as far as news goes, the healthcare bill, Trump 3.0, is dead. Trump Care 3.0 is dead. And after it died, Mitch McConnell decided, okay, we're going to take one of those repeal bills that we had passed through the House a couple of years ago, and we're just going to vote on that in the Senate and just get rid of the Affordable Care Act altogether.
with no replacement?
With no replacement. Now, he says...
That's half of the repeal and replace promise they've been making.
Right. Now he tried to calm everybody when he announced this. He said, now keep in mind, part of that bill says that we won't actually take it away for 2 years, so that'll give us more time to work on a replacement. But I don't care. They said that the immediate effect would be 18 million people lose their insurance within 1 year, not 2020, not 2024. So when that came out, 3 brave Republican senators and then 2 more stood up and said, no, we're not voting for that either. So that has effectively died. And then President Trump interrupted a lunch with veterans to pound his fists and pout and ask for Mike Pence's approval over his shoulder. And he basically said that we're just going to let Obamacare die a natural death, and everyone will see how terrible it is, and it won't be on me. It won't be on me.
No,
it won't be on the Republicans. It'll be all on the Democrats. You just watch.
No,
nobody's going to blame me for it.
The fact that our elderly in this country can now have a hope of actually dying naturally is no thanks to them.
Yeah. So we'll see where this goes. McConnell is currently spinning his wheels, trying to figure out another thing to do. I mean, I really hope that this gives them the black eye that they need for the Democrats to pick up some seats in 2018.
It's going to, because they failed. This is the number one deal. Even though Trump supporters and other Republicans may not, and I spoke with one today. I'll get into that story in a minute, but even though most of them, a lot of them, especially in Mitch McConnell's home state of Kentucky, did not realize that they were actually on Obamacare, they still look at this as a promise. They still were promised something better than Obamacare. And that's not to say that something better doesn't exist. I don't think it exists. I don't think that answer exists within the Republican Party, but I think this is really going to cost them some seats. And I think Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan, who the two of them have probably had their name on this even more than Trump, I think those two are going to suffer. So if we can knock out Wisconsin and fucking Kentucky in 2018, that's going to set a lot of good positive wheels in motion, I think. But I was talking to somebody today who we were talking about healthcare and we were talking about taxes, and this guy, he's got a Trump sticker on the back of his car, and he voted for Trump. He's proud of it. And a few months ago, we were on the show talking, and I said I was talking to 3 Trump supporters, and they all said the same thing. They said, well, he's getting shit done, and we couldn't figure out what he was getting done. This was one of those guys. So we start talking today, and he says that he can't understand why rich people feel like they don't need to pay more taxes than the people that make less than them. And I went, whoa, hold the fucking phone real quick. And the guy remember that guy Brad that we had sitting on the show a few months ago. He was with me, and we both kind of looked at each other and looked back at him. And we're like, hold the fuck up. What are you talking about? And he's like, no, if you make more money, you should pay your fair share of taxes. And I said, that's really liberal of you. And this guy got angry, like hulked immediately, because I called him the L word. So I had to have a little discussion with him about what it means to be liberal, that having democratic views or liberal views, when you take all the things that we argue about, whether it's guns or pro-choice versus pro-life and all that other shit, when you take it off the table, it really comes down to how you feel like the economy should be ran. So I had to sit there and explain to him on how Obamacare took money from, the rich, and it was a wealth distribution tactic. This guy was fucking amazed, and he had no idea, but he was really pissed off that I called him the L word. And I'm like, well, do you think gays should be married? Well, I'm not gay, but I'm okay with it. It doesn't hurt me. All right, well, what do you think about abortion? Are you okay with abortion? He's like, no, I'm not okay with abortion, but I'd never tell a woman what to do with their body. And I told him, you're one of the people, Alex, like this is your quote that I use all the time. Whenever I find a Republican who doesn't make a whole lot of money, how do they keep voting against their own interests? And that just leads me to believe that these guys really don't fucking look into shit. Every Trump supporter I've met and most Republicans I've met, they don't know anything. They don't, and it's by choice. They don't fucking look into shit. How do we get those people onto the right side of history so they stop voting against themselves and thusly against us? Any ideas?
I mean, I think anti-intellectualism, right, is at an all-time great, and you only have to look to the Oval Office for that.
Right.
So I think we need some kind of movement to counter that, and I'm not exactly sure what that is, but it has to be a movement where facts or intelligence is valued again. And until that's the case, I mean, we're gonna keep looking like the idiots on the side spouting facts, while they just sit over there talking about how they're feeling.
So how do you get to them? I mean, this guy has. I've never heard a conservative view out of him other than his blind faith and support for Donald Trump that he can't answer or back up. Other than that, everything I hear out of him is a liberal concept. From his thoughts on how the taxes should work, and thusly whether he knows it or not, how the economy works, and his views on society, his social justice views.
Is he racist?
No.
Okay.
He is a little sexist. I will say that. I'll give him. I will say that he's a little sexist. But I've met plenty of people his age that are, and that's no excuse. But I'm just saying it's not uncommon. But and I mean I don't know what his marital history has been, but I would think if you've been divorced several times, you're probably going to hate the other sex too. So who knows? Nick? Oh, he's tied up. All right, so let me see here. Moving on. Well, I mean, is there anything else we have to say on the healthcare bill?
I think that's about it. I mean, real quick, I guess we can kind of talk about the stupidity of Donald Trump Jr.
Yeah.
We missed last week we had talked about it. Me silently, but we talked about basically Trump Jr. Tweeted out his email history. One of the emails specifically says, this is part of Russia's ongoing support for your father. In his, so I mean, we have obviously that whole mess going on.
And that's causing a lot of Republicans to backpedal. I mean, especially with his reply to that email was, "I love it." And the thing is like I heard somebody say that, oh well, he was told that he's got somebody that has dirt on Hillary. Why wouldn't he go for that? Okay, let's make this really fucking simple. You do not seek assistance from foreign governments for a presidential election. You don't fucking do that. I mean, I would think we would even have a problem if Britain or Germany stepped forward about something. Now,
well, right. Chris
right?
Christie was on MSNBC today trying to defend all that crap. He kept sidestepping the issue. The whole issue is that they showed up. It's not what they got in the meeting. It's the fact that they showed up with the intent to secure bad information.
And that's those idiots' defense is that, hey, we didn't get anything, so I mean, we didn't collude.
How do we know we didn't fucking
to
get
collude.
anything?
But that's not the point. You walk into the bank with a gun, whether you get money or not. You walked into the bank with a gun,
right?
If you
bullshit. But I just want to point out, for all the scandalous shit that they were pulling on Hillary Clinton, which some of it she was guilty for, I'll always say that, but with some of it she did to herself, like the when it came to Benghazi, when it came to whether or not her email server led to anything catastrophic or detrimental to the United States, there was nowhere near as much evidence as there is for Trump colluding with fucking Russia. None. Like, it's not even a comparison. Not to mention that he attended this meeting with Manafort.
Well, I hate to be this guy, but I really, really want there to be that collusion so that we can just, move on with our lives here. But so far, I mean, there is a raging inferno somewhere, because there is smoke just flying everywhere right now. From that article we mentioned earlier about him laundering money for the Russian mafia, to getting bank loans from Russians, to this meeting, to like everything about Trump has a connection to Russia. And it's nearly impossible to believe that something isn't there. But we still haven't seen 100% evidence that it is.
Yeah, but we got, Robert Mueller is the team that he's put together is pretty impressive, and you would have to think that he wouldn't be doing that to waste his time and the time of all these individuals. So
and he's being really quiet, which I like.
Well, which makes me feel like he is super fucking busy.
Yeah.
Like he is going, holy shit. And somebody's going, Mr. Mueller, yeah, we found another meeting. Oh, God damn it. Do we have anyone else? No. Hire 2 more attorneys.
Yeah. I'm with you. Like, it's a black mark on America. So I mean, that's why obviously, like, that would be the reason why people like us who don't like Trump would like to find out that there was no collusion. But that's the only reason. But in my opinion, Trump still can be the best president and exactly what we needed. He can be the wake up call we needed. If this is going to be a black mark or an orange mark on our the standing of the United States, let's make it as orange as fucking possible so nobody fucking forgets. I mean, look at Germany. I mean, they're taking our place as leaders of the free world, and you know, it wasn't 100 years ago when they were going through their shit. So,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah,
it can still work into our favor.
I would prefer not to have a world war and 60 million people die.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying
Crazy
that.
bastard.
But my point was is that Germany had a much worse reputation to get over than I think
Oh,
we're gonna have.
Yeah, but I don't. The whole thing that's going on with Iran right now, they're following the rules, they're following the treaty to the letter, but according to Trump, they're not following the spirit of it. So he puts sanctions on people. What is that?
That's
the
a
spirit
little
of it.
boy. That's a little kid with too much power.
You're poking somebody that doesn't need to be poked.
Yeah,
While you're sleeping with Saudi Arabia.
Right. Right.
exactly. So, well,
That's-
speaking of Muslims, let's go ahead and get into our last topic. Nick, you want
Ethical
to
dilemmas.
introduce this one?
Yeah. As you all know, I am a fan of the Viceland channel, and on there I was watching a show called States of Undress with Haley Gates, and she goes around the world and sees how fashion is affected by culture, religion, different issues going on in these countries, and I don't really care about fashion. I mean, as you guys can see, I'm in a sleeveless shirt here, and I'm not that guy.
Which is not allowed
Um,
in Congress.
That's right. But it was kind of interesting because she was in France and she was talking to a bunch of people about the ban on the burqa, the niqab, and the hijab. So basically, you can't cover your head with a scarf or wear the full hijab with the veil and everything. And you can't wear them in public buildings. You can't wear them in public schools. And at first I was like, well, that's kind of fucked up, because they're just aiming at Muslims, and I don't want to discriminate against anybody. If anything, I want to discriminate against everybody. So, but I found out in this rule or this law that they are actually supposed to keep people from wearing crucifixes, yarmulkes, turbans, any sort of religious thing like that. They are not allowed to wear it. But clearly, it seems like it's going just towards Muslims. That's the discrimination factor. Isn't necessarily, or I didn't want to necessarily discuss the fact that they're just going after Muslims. What I wanted to discuss is this okay? Like, should we tell people not to wear stuff? Like, because as an atheist, if I see somebody that's wearing a hijab or a crucifix or something like that, there is something in the back of my mind that makes me notice that, and maybe start on a different footing than I may have normally started if I have to interact with that person. But I do see certain points, like to wear the veil to keep your face hidden when you're at a enormous sporting event or out celebrating Bastille Day or something like that. Mike, you and I know from working our previous job that we don't allow people to wear masks to come into places because it's a thing about concealing identity,
Right.
and that can be dangerous.
Well, all right. So I think it is fucked up. The discrimination part, as well as telling somebody what to wear. I mean, I think some people look at this as we are helping to liberate the Muslim women. I don't look at it that way because I am under the impression that most Muslim women, regardless of how horrible they're treated, or how horrible we may think them being forced to cover their face and all that stuff is, I am not totally convinced that they themselves personally have a problem with it. Some of them may love Allah and think that this is the correct way to serve him, and they should have every right to do that. I have never heard this complaint about nuns. Not once. And it does make it a little bit better that they are going after yarmulkes and crucifixes and stuff like that. But here's the thing. I want to rid the world of religion because I agree with many other people who have said these same words, that they're holding us back for science and humanity and social progress. Like, I want to rid the world of religion, but I want the world to make the choice to do so. Because what this really comes down to is sacrificing freedom for an illusion of safety. We should not be taking away somebody's personal liberties just so we could feel safe. I don't agree with that.
You know, and that's a really good point you made there. And I want to side note that one of the biggest misconceptions about atheists is none of us are trying to force anything on anyone, because that's the exact thing that we don't understand and we don't agree with. If we were to force atheism onto anyone, that would be an unnatural atheist. That would be somebody who came to it by force, somebody who's not using their mind, and that's all we want. We want people to reason. We want people to think. We want people to come to conclusions on their own.
You know,
if you do all of that and you stay religious, whatever.
Yeah, although Alex and I mean, back in our early episodes, we said many times that research leads to atheism. It is kind of the first step out of religion, but
oh, sure, absolutely.
We said a long time ago that sorry, Alex, real quick. We said a long time ago that if you got a wall that separates religion from atheism, you can't knock the wall down for them. It only reinforces it. All you can do is point out the holes and let them know that they have their own hammer and they can knock the wall down if they want to, but you can't do it for them.
Right, absolutely. That's where the atheist utopia is going to come from, when everyone just decides one day, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah, I don't believe in this anymore. You can't be an
atheist if you hate God. That's the other point.
Okay, so two things. First, just as from my experience, when I was in Germany last year, I saw more people wearing the full veil, and then I have... in the week that I was there, probably than in my whole life in the United States. So it was different. I mean, it was kind of a different experience. And I wasn't afraid or anything, but it just is not what I'm used to. So I know France has more Muslims than Germany. But the second part, and I think I disagree with you more, Mike. I think that it's hard because you don't want to force them to do it, but this is something that they're already being forced to do. I mean, so you say a lot of women want to do that. All that, the only women that I've really heard, and I've heard women Muslim debate, but you know, like Ayaan Hirsi Ali comes to mind, and people that have left that lifestyle and say, you know, I mean, they're fighting it right now, and they're saying women should be free. And when you look at Saudi Arabia right now, a woman's being prosecuted because she wore a skirt. So I think, I mean, there's a line, and I'm not saying I'm completely on the other side, but I think right now they're being forced to wear these things in a lot of cases from a child, you know, and genital mutilation is part of that culture as well too. So I think it's I mean, we have to.
But what you're doing is, like I said, I didn't say that I agree. I mean, obviously, what is this fucking podcast about? I mean, obviously, none of us agree with this shit. But that is taking into what you're basically doing is saying that you don't like a specific part of how they practice their religion, and it demeans women and all that. I totally agree. But if a woman wants to do this, and there are many of them that do because they feel like that is what they should be doing in the eyes of Allah, we have no right to tell them not to.
No, but the thing that you're missing there is that women are subservient to men in Islam, and some of these men have, but not as much, but yeah, modern Islam. Yeah, but I agree. But in Islam right now, I mean, men can, have more than one wife in certain sects and things like that. So it's the value and the role of women in Islam is much, much worse than it is in modern
Well,
Christianity. And not to say that this is going to counteract it, but it gives them a piece of that empowerment, in my opinion.
well, let me be the scientist here and kind of define the parameters of this. I'm not necessarily discussing Saudi Arabia. I'm just talking about free Western societies. And in this episode that I was watching, they talked to two young schoolgirls who they just wear the scarf on their head. They don't cover their face or anything. Um, and they talked about how they do this by choice. It is their choice. This is how they choose to express their religion. And every day when they go to school, there is a teacher standing at the gate, and they even erected a mirror for these two girls to do their hair before they come into the school, because they didn't want them doing it in the school bathroom. So before they even walk across the threshold of the school playground there, they have to take the scarf off and tussle their hair out and everything. Um, and that seemed to me that they were choosing to do this because of a deep held religious conviction. Um, they also discussed how they both want to be doctors, and because they've chosen to wear this, they are going to not be able to attend universities. They're not going to be able to do the things necessary to attain that dream. Now, um, in my mind, of course, as an atheist, I'm like, big fucking deal. Take the scarf off, go to school, put it on when you walk out. God will understand. You're being forced to do it. But it's one of those things where I don't want to force people to do stuff. I don't want to force people to do things like that. And I totally see your point about the full cover. I think it's the niqab
Yeah.
where their
Uh-huh.
face is covered, the veil and everything. Um, when they were speaking to a woman on this episode that she was single, she had no men in her life that were making her do this. She chooses to wear this because that's what she thinks she needs to do to be a good Muslim woman. Um, when she was talking to the host of the show, I was uncomfortable, not because of her religion necessarily, but because I couldn't see her face. And to me, that's an important part of human interaction. Like, why can I not look at your face? Like, that's strange to me, and it did make me feel uncomfortable. um but again, I don't know that I want to tell that woman that she can't wear that. um
And I mean that's my entire point is you do have people that are practicing this part uh, of their own free will, and regardless of the fact of how back asswards we think that is, I mean even aside from you feeling uncomfortable just because you're not used to it. It's not like it's just a different way of life or a different custom that they have in a certain part of the world. It's not like when apparently when French people come here, they're surprised that we don't put ketchup on everything. It's not that. Um, it's more along the lines of we look at it as oppressing women, but at the same time, I can't tell them not to fucking do that. I can't vote to tell them not to do that. I don't.
right. And there's
I don't get that.
actually a guy in France right now who is a Muslim himself, and he's a very successful man. And he goes around paying the fines of these women who get a ticket for wearing a veil. And he makes them sign a contract before he pays their fine that says they wear this veil under their own decision. And if he finds out that they don't, then he can come after them for the money. So, he has turned people down who have said, "Well, no, my husband makes me wear this," and then I'm not going to.
And honestly, the next part, the other part about this is I always try to think whenever a bill is voted on like that, or if it comes here, where does it lead? Are we now going to go tell if Germany enacts this bill, are we going to go tell Ramstein what they're allowed to wear on stage? It's freedom of expression. whether or not they feel free because they're servants to their husbands and shit like that. Regardless, are we going to deny anybody freedom of expression? Freedom to, I mean, fuck, look at Marilyn Manson. Are we going to tell him that he's not allowed to look freaky as a fuck you to Christianity?
I think it's different. And I get what you're saying, and I'm for freedom of expression. But again, right, these women that you're talking about, the two potential doctors, they make that choice. But I guarantee you, as a 5 and 6 year old, they didn't make that choice. It was forced upon them. And I think, and it's, I'm not exactly sure where I'm at on this, to be honest. But I feel like I'm more not for the ban, but I'm just against the burqa and the hijab, because at the end of the day, this is man's law, Islam, that they wrote, and men enforce it, and
right.
Men, you're right. We're not talking about Saudi Arabia, but these are people that come from those countries, right? And they still hold those
some
traditions
of
true.
Not
Not all of them, right? I mean, obviously you have more liberal people, especially in France or the United States. But that is kind of where the idea comes from, and it's diluted basically. If you concentrate it, you get back to something like that. And I feel like it's more of a women's rights issue. I can't make the argument because I'm not a woman, and I obviously haven't been subjected to that. But the women that have, when I listen to their arguments, I feel like they make sound arguments against these things, and they know enough for me to support them. So
and I'm in agreement there. I just feel like there needs to be a different way. There's got to be a different path to resolving that. I don't know what that is, but I mean we've discussed atheism and the war of religions as kind of the war of ideas, and I don't know what the right way is. I don't think that's the right way. I mean,
right.
our founding fathers thought
that's
expression
fair. That's
important
fair.
enough to put in our very first amendment. So,
well, and the other thing too, well, I mean, we may be misinterpreting what the founding fathers actually meant, though, because there were a lot of things they put into the Constitution that they did not mean the way we interpret them now. But thinking on the security side of it, I was thinking, okay, well, it kind of makes sense if you have somebody who's covered head to toe and you just see their eyes, if they're walking into a crowded concert hall or into a courtroom or something, they could conceal things in there that could harm people. But then are we going to tell people that they can't wear trench coats? Are we going to tell people that they can't wear 3/4 length coats? There's a lot of ways to conceal things that don't necessarily need a hijab or a burqa,
right.
So
yeah, I don't buy the whole security thing. I think I think the scare of terrorism is bullshit. And that can be.
But in Europe, it's much more prevalent, though. To be fair, in Europe,
it's only more prevalent in Europe because not as many people there die by guns as ours do. My follow up to that, what I was just about to say, is that we have way more shit to worry about that kills way more people. Europe doesn't really have that problem. Europe doesn't have anywhere near the issues that we do with health.
Aside from guns,
health
is different. But,
diabetes epidemic. We have way more shit that kills us here in the U.S. Focusing on terrorism, I think for us at the least, is bullshit.
Well, there's much greater threats. Like France has had 9 terror attacks, I think, in the last 2 years here, right. Major terror attacks.
London,
but
recently.
they also recently had a measles outbreak that spread through. I think like a quarter of the nation,
right?
Because of the anti-vaccine that's going on over there. So it's one of those things where can we get our shit together and like list the priorities in proper order? Because here where I live, where Alex and I live, right in between us, we're accepting a large number of Syrian refugees. Mm-hmm. And I don't really see the community in an uproar telling them to go away.
Oh, you need to go meet my wife's aunt.
I have seen some protests, and some anti-protests. I've seen more invitations to the anti-protests, but they do protest the swearing-in ceremonies and when they actually come and the welcoming ceremonies. There's a nice group of Trump supporters out there to wave to him.
Just as Jesus would have wanted.
Yeah,
I love that meme that was going around that, like, hey, Christians in the United States, you'll never see the second coming happening because you wouldn't let Jesus cross the fucking border. Pretty much. One of my
there's actually I don't know if I already talked about this, but that show on Starz, American Gods, there's a moment in one of the episodes where there's a bunch of Mexicans going through a river to cross into America, and Jesus appears and helps one of them who's drowning. And as soon as that guy gets to the shore, there's a bunch of white guys on the American side that shoot Jesus and kill him, and they're all the Minutemen. And I just sit there going, yeah, that probably happened.
I can completely see that happening. That same person, Lindsay comes to me the other day and she's like, "The fuck?" I'm like, "What?" She's like, "You see look at what my aunt posted." I don't fucking follow her, but she posted this fucking meme that said, "I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I just want my country back." And I'm like, you're never gonna find a fucking Democrat that says that. You'd be hard pressed to find one.
Well, I don't get it. Where'd your country go?
I don't know. It was still here last time I checked.
Yeah, like what's so different from 10 years ago?
I don't know, man. Maybe
just different shit on the news. Because I was seeing. I grew up around brown people. They're everywhere.
Me too. One's sitting right over
there.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not as if like all of a sudden I'm sitting here going, "Oh wow, my skin's different from theirs." Like my best friends in school weren't white. I mean,
mine neither.
Yeah.
And I think that had to do with. I think that was more mathematics.
I'm telling you, it's just the isolated people. Like I'm sorry to our listeners that live in the Midwest, but if you live in a town where there's like 50 people and all of you are white, there's a psychology to it where you're gonna be distrustful of the first person that shows up that looks a little different. And it's not like you're doing it on purpose. It's just that it's like, hey, that guy's different. And then all of a sudden something in town goes wrong and you go, well, that guy showed up.
Get him!
This shit happened. Get him. And it's just.
And that's when what do I call him? Skeeter and who's the other one? Skeeter. Damn it! Cletus. That's when Skeeter and Cletus show up. Start the Klan's neighborhood watch.
Oh, and real quick, because I know you wanted to get to the giant dicks, and I don't know if we have time, but I did want to welcome.
Oh, you motherfucker!
I did want to welcome our new listeners in Sweden. This is yes. Now they're not going to listen anymore.
Yeah. That was a horrible Swedish impression.
I know your podcast.
Well, thank you for listening last time.
Yeah, that was great of you.
Their women are.
There's
some hot Swedes out there.
That's great. Let's Donald Trump them now. That'll really.
No, it's not impolite. Come on.
You want to grab them by their Volvo? I mean, come on, man.
Oh man, we're really welcoming the fucking Swedes. Thank you, Swedes. We appreciate the audience.
The last time you listened to us.
The last time
we love you all. Our Japanese listeners, our Dutch listeners, and our new Swedish listeners. We love you all.
Now they're going to be
including our
offended
American listeners.
That I only complimented the women from Sweden and not Japan or Australia or anybody else.
I couldn't imagine you with a small Japanese woman. You would crush. I mean, just from giving her a hug. I mean, I don't know if you know this, listeners, but Mike is like 9 feet tall, and he can pull a tree out of the ground. He's enormous.
I'm not clumsy and reckless. I have grace.
Man.
Oh, you motherfucker. Now we're not going to get to giant dicks. I'm gonna
Yeah,
slay.
you're cock-blocked again.
Yeah, you fucking cock blocked me again. I'm gonna slay fucking Gandhi one of these days. I might have to wait till you go back to school, but I'm gonna slay fucking Gandhi one of these goddamn days. Son of a bitch. All right.
You know what? I may just come up with a giant dick of my own and rival your giant dick in the next episode.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I
go ahead.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and conclude. There will be no giant dick of history again this week. So we want to thank everybody for joining us, and don't forget we are still running our GoFundMe. You can find the donate links to our GoFundMe page and Patreon on the Facebook, the Age of Reason podcast on Facebook, or the donate link in the top right of AORpodcast.com, and follow us on Twitter at AOR_podcast. And let me see. Since we're off last week, we will be on next week, so we will see you guys then.